Welcome to Choreography, a podcast about the greatest sport on ice, figure skating. I'm Wendy Buskey.
And I'm Adrian Buskey, and this episode we will be talking about the Trialeti Trophy, which happened in Tbilisi, Georgia this past weekend. That's a smaller but notable event for a bunch of different reasons that we'll talk about. And then after we cover that, then we're going to give a brief preview of the upcoming Grand Prix, the actual Grand Prix de France, which will start the Grand Prix proper, which is kind of like when the season really gets trucking.
Yeah.
I feel like the Challenger Series has been more important than we've seen it, or more significant, more hotly contested than we've seen it in previous years.
Oh, for sure.
I think because in an Olympic season, we're seeing a lot of competitors that sometimes choose not to do Challenger Series events and wait to show up at the Grand Prix, actively competing a lot as they're trying to get these programs in shape and ready for the Grand Prix. So I think that we've seen a lot of these events have more significant lineups of elite competitors, more hotly contested, like I said. And for this one, the Trialeti Trophy, this is the first ever Challenger event in Georgia, which is really significant for Georgia. And while it wasn't a very big venue, it had a nice turnout. It had a
very enthusiastic crowd.
Yeah, super enthusiastic crowd, both for their Georgia skaters, as you would expect, but also for everybody. And it was really great to see how warm they were to everyone. This was a Georgia sweep of the podiums. It's interesting because, one, it's totally deserved.
Yeah.
All four of these top spots going to Georgian skaters or teams is absolutely deserved versus the competition that they faced here at this event. Absolutely.
I totally agree.
Some of the scores feel a little out of pocket.
Oh, for sure. Also agree.
in ways that feel much more like national scoring than what you'd expect to see at something like a Challenger event.
National scoring, or it's an Olympic team year and we're trying to boost our overall averages and personal bests.
Yeah, there's a few places where it feels, well, and we'll get right into it with the pairs, because I think that's both the most dominant win at this event, but also the most kind of outlandish score.
Yeah, and outlandish might be a little bit harsh, but I only say that because the winners were Georgia's Anastasia Metelkina and Luka Buralava, a team that has been continuing to improve year over year, season over season. This is the best I've ever seen them look.
Absolutely.
For sure. Like short and long programs, both were phenomenal. They just looked ready, prepared. That's pretty much the same word. But they looked excited too. Like there was an enthusiasm. And I'm sure that to a certain degree, it was the performing for the Georgian crowd and for the, Team Georgia. They felt very motivated, and I wouldn't argue at all with their placement. They absolutely, definitively won.
This was an incredibly dominant win. I think that one of the things that we talk about all the time with Metelkina and Buralava is that they, for several years now, since they became a team, they have been technically one of the strongest teams in the pairs competition. But if there was a problem for them, it was a lack of connection between the two of them. They're so physically well matched, but oftentimes they felt extremely emotionally disconnected from each other on the ice. And there are times where it feels like people who aren't friends, right? Like that are skating together, but don't necessarily connect to one another. And here it looks so much better in that regard than what I think I've ever seen from them. They were really locked in. Their energy matched each other. When they would get done with the skates, the obvious happiness that they had with their performances was really nice to see, particularly from Anastasia, who I feel like sometimes seems like a person sitting on an island in this team.
A little bit.
And she was just so ecstatic with their performances, as she should be, because they were great. The thrown triple twists from this team in both the short and the free. Yeah, absolutely colossal. I mean, she was like 2 stories in the air, perfectly executed. Her running edges coming out of the thrown triples were magnificent. I don't know that I've ever seen this team look stronger than they did here. It was really, really solid.
But
I
do want to note their score was a 225-20, which is outrageous. And I only say that because if you look, I'm taking best ever scores from some of the top teams in the world and comparing. So the top score from Haas and Volodin, who they beat here definitively.
Yeah.
But their highest ever score was a 221-38. So it's 4 points higher than that. High score from our reigning world champions, Riku Miura and Ryuichi Kihara, 226.05. So it's like skating really close to that score.
1 point under their best ever.
Deanna and Max, 221.56. So again, just a little bit around the same area of Hassan Volodin, 4 points. Then you look at the highest score ever from Sui and Han, who did confirm they are going to be at Cup of China. So we are seeing Sui and Han.
Yeah, they are technically still on. You know, we've seen now practice footage of them.
And they announced their programs.
I didn't see that. Okay.
Yeah, so it's a real thing. Their highest ever score is 239.88. So we're not in that league. But
that's an Olympic score.
That's an Olympic score, and it's Sui and Han. So we're just putting that as like its own little outlier.
Right.
Because holy crap, they're amazing. That said, that's why I question Metlakina and Barolava's score here. Did it feel like it won definitively over Hassan Volodin? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Hassan Volodin did not look that great here.
No.
But Metlakina and Barolava's score probably should have been somewhere more in the 215 to 220 range, somewhere in there. And that still would have been a monster score, and it would have been well-deserved. The 225 feels like, hey, by the way, we are the best. Remember, we're the best. And it didn't feel quite right.
Yeah. And I would say, and this is without, so take this with a grain of salt, because we didn't go protocol peeping through all of the numbers and stuff after the fact here. But watching it, if there's a flaw in these skates, at least what appears to be a flaw, because there's very few, they're very, very good skates. It's in the free skate where Anastasia looks to potentially under-rotate a jump in each of her side-by-side passes.
Yes, at least one I would almost put money on.
Yeah. I mean, they might just be on the cue, but they're clearly not perfect jumps, and they do look a little under-rotated.
And they were not under review at all.
They did not get reviews on those, on very obvious.
Especially the second one.
The second one was very obvious. And, if you've gone back and watched, you, the listener, have gone back and watched the replays of this, because also we didn't get slow motion replays on anything from this event.
No slow motion replays, and we really just watched this on YouTube and grabbed what we could.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of skaters we didn't watch, so there's that, but also the quality of what we were watching. There was no commentary.
Yeah, the feed was pretty low quality, and the recordings of the feed was pretty low. So, and just in general, take all that with a grain of salt.
Yes.
But it did look like there were places where other skaters in this event were getting things under review all over the place, and Metlakina and Barolava were not getting those reviews. And again, fantastic skates, definitive win. It's just two little nitpick spots where I think they should have at least gone under review, and they didn't. And I think it's just probably, those are places where she was at least on the queue. We saw that the GOE on both of those passes was relatively low, but it was still in the positive for something that didn't cleanly land. And I think that should have affected the score a little bit. And it feels like they got kind of a open pass. So in the end, this is one of those things that we see. It's like we see stuff that happens at like Skate Canada. We dog on all the time because Skate Canada scores always feel like they're like a mess. But national domestic events, the scoring often feels
U.S. nationals is always like, that's silly.
Yeah. There's definitely times where we've seen people like Chalk and Bates get their score and just kind of look like that's not real,
Yeah.
But this is an international event, and it is the first one in Georgia. So you would want to see those numbers feel a little better, especially when none of the Georgians needed a Georgian bonus to win here, because they all really won.
Yes, I wish you could. I wish we were on video right now, because I've just looked at Adrian with the exasperated, yes, exactly, with my hands in the air, like the Italian part of me that I am.
Yeah.
But it was definitely a not needed bonus. Like, they all won.
Yeah.
They didn't need to be padded.
When we look at the second place finish of Hassan and Volodin, they come in with a 208.28 here. So, you're getting like a 17-point win over Hassan and Volodin.
And I think that's where it really feels like, and granted, Hassan and Volodin their free skate was not great.
No,
here.
Their free skate's really rough. It's maybe one of the worst skates I've seen from them in a long time.
Which is still saying something, because it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
But they're usually fantastic.
It's just full of problems.
Yes.
It's, both their skates here, they have so much quality. They have great connection on the ice. There's a lyricality, particularly from Minerva. Nikita is such a rock solid partner. And typically we're used to seeing the kinds of skates that should be at the top of the podium or like really, really close. And even though they come in second here, it's a very distant second.
very distant.
But that's because that free skate is just full of mistakes.
Well, and to be fair, I mean, there was also a lot of good. Like their triple twist was also magnificent in both the short and the long.
Yeah, absolutely wonderful. Yeah. But there are just, they had some problems on the side-by-sides. I want to say there's a fall somewhere or maybe or something.
And she doubles the second throw.
Oh, right. Oh, that's right. Yes, she doubles the second throw, which is where when we saw that happen, we were like, ooh. And there's also a lift in that free skate that doesn't quite work.
It goes up, it stays up, but when it comes down, it looks rough.
Yeah.
They just looked exhausted.
Yeah, they looked tired. In their interviews afterwards with Golden Skate, they basically said they were really happy to leave Georgia because they didn't come here in the best shape. I think Minerva had been sick in the week before. They had not had the prep time that they wanted to. They didn't come in with the energy they wanted to, and she definitely felt like she was gassing out really hard through that free skate, and you can see that. So, they've got a couple of weeks of downtime before they hit their first Grand Prix, and hopefully that will give them the restorative time that they need to get back up to full power, because they very clearly were not at full power. No. They should have given Metlakina and Berlava a much stronger run for their money here.
100%.
And they just did not look like their typical selves.
Yes, agreed. The one thing I was really happy to see was the third place finish from Emily Chan and Spencer Howe from the U.S. Their short program looked phenomenal, like really strong. I mean, she fell on the throw, but still it was like much better overall than I've seen from them in a long time. They were a little weaker in the free, but still like their overall speed and connection on the ice and just, I don't know, they just looked stronger. And with a 193.70, that's a much more encouraging place for them at this point in the season, especially after such a rough return after Spencer's injury.
Much like Metlakina and Berlava, Chan and Howe are a team that I often think don't feel connected. They feel like two people skating together.
They're a beautiful team.
They are. They're a terrific team in a lot of ways, but they also don't always feel like just fully connected to each other. And here they looked a lot better than I've seen in a long time. Now they've brought back older programs,
which was smart.
It was a smart move, and so you get that sense of familiarity with those programs. They feel a lot more confident in them. Spencer, over the summer, enlisted in the Army and joined a specific elite sport athlete group within the Army on his way to becoming like an Army chaplain or something. It's an unusual move, especially in an Olympic year.
Right before the Olympics, yeah.
I can't claim to understand a lot about that particular circumstance, but it meant that Chan and Howe didn't have a lot of training time together over the summer. Emily was training essentially by herself while he was training at some Army facility somewhere. So when they were coming back together, they had to very specifically go back to older programs because they just did not have time to learn new ones.
Yeah, of course not.
Anyway, it felt like the best that we've seen from them in a while. There's still room for improvement, but a 193.70 here I think is really nice for Chan and Howe because we've seen them be significantly worse than this.
Oh my gosh.
At competitions over the last couple of years. And this, in the year where all of the American teams are hunting for those spots, this makes a compelling case for them.
For sure. And the benefit that Chan and Howe have is they can go to the Olympics. So if they continue to do really well, have a good Grand Prix, and do well at nationals, they get a spot at the Olympics. I mean, I don't think anyone could argue it. It's just a matter of how the next few months go.
The other notable thing here in this competition is that this was the first time any of us have seen Ellie Cam and Danny O'Shea. And I say that with the asterisk because we did not see them because we didn't find a video of them anywhere online.
No, we didn't pay for the stream this time just due to life happenings and at home. So we were grabbing everything on YouTube and no one that we could find shared anything from Danny and Ellie. So all I saw was a practice from them. But I'm happy that they were here. They didn't fall apart. They didn't do nearly as well as they can. They had a 176.32. They were fifth overall, fifth in the short, fifth in the free, so they were consistent.
Yep.
But regardless, no matter what occurred here on the day, this was just a first step back from Danny being injured. So I'm just glad they were here and getting the mileage that they need.
But it does put them some 15 points or so, I'm bad at the math here, behind Chan and Howe, So Cam and O'Shea are the obvious picks for, one of the American Olympic spots, but they got to come back strong, and this is just the first start of it. However, there were some other notable international teams here that did not do as well, so them coming out in fifth in their first competition after his injury is still pretty good.
Well, I want to move us on to the men's competition where, unsurprisingly, we saw a win from Georgia's Nika Gatsi. And here I don't know that his score was, similar, like we were saying about Metlakina and Baralava. I don't think it was super inflated, but
no, I think it was on point.
I think it was on point.
Yeah.
I think it might have been a tiny bit generous whenever you look at the composition scores.
Yeah.
That's where I'm like,
I mean, when you make a comparison between him and Jason Brown, who was in second, and
that's not even fair.
It's not. Yeah, these are very apples to oranges skaters, right?
Yes.
I mean, this is a case of you have a quad jumper without a lot of artistry, and the definitive artist who has no quads, right?
Right.
So that matchup is you're going to get a person who is going to win on technical points in the case of Nika, even though the overall quality of his skating is significantly lower than Jason's. He just has jumps that Jason cannot match.
Exactly. Do I think that he should have been closer to the 250 to 255 range? Yes. So a 261 might be a little generous, and that's really just based on those TES scores. But also, he had a few falls in both programs.
They were not clean skates.
They were not clean skates.
Yeah.
But his technical content, his ceiling was much higher technically. So totally get it. No argument that he won. And it was lovely to see because, I mean, it obviously meant so much to him. The Georgian fans were like freaking out over him, which was so wonderful. So no qualms, no concerns. Were they exciting skates? I don't think so, personally. I actually thought when we saw this long program at the Dennis 10 Memorial, I thought it was better.
It was better. I thought in general, at Dennis 10, his free skate was great, but his short program I had some issues with. Here, I thought his short program, even with some little bit of issues, was still, I think, better than it had been. He looked much more comfortable in it. But I think in the free skate, you felt a little bit of stress, like that pressure of performing at home for that audience. And you saw some of those kind of typical Nika Gatsi mistakes where he comes back off his heels at the end of a jump and manages to not fall down, but also has really awkward landings. And then other jumps that look extraordinary, right? Like, I mean, when he's good, he's great. But it's just a lot of times there's a lot of messiness. And the artistry of that free skate just was not as good as what we saw at Dennis 10.
Yeah.
There is a moment, and this relates back to Metlakina and Baralava, something that I just really loved seeing in it is that when Metlakina and Baralava won the free skate, when they came off the ice for the free skate, Nika Gatsi and Anastasia Gubanova greeted them at the boards and was giving them big hugs and were just super.
It was really sweet.
It's a really, really sweet moment and such a show of support from their teammates that I thought was really terrific. And I know that Nika and Luca are friends because I've seen them in their like Instagram posts together and stuff. So that was really fun. I mean, I really like Nika. I'm excited for him here. This is a significant win for him. I don't actually have a problem with that 261. To me, that matches up with stuff that we've seen out of people like Daniel Grassel or like Lucas Britschke, like over the course of the last season or two, in the sense of where they landed with those scores
with messy programs.
Yeah. So
that's probably fair.
Yeah, I don't have a big argument there. I think that when we look at the second place with Jason Brown, he comes in with a 249.30. And even though Jason's artistry is beautiful, he doesn't have the quads, but additionally, he wasn't clean in these skates.
No, he had a fall in the short program and in the long on this triple axel and just had little issues. Like he would double a jump, but otherwise was miraculous. I know we've talked a lot about his free skate, that we don't love the music. However, I want to point out this time I didn't even really think about it when we were watching him because I was just so focused on his program, and I am warming to that program a lot. And it's proving the point that Jason can kind of do whatever he wants because it's always going to be gorgeous. It's just who he is.
It was helped by the audio mix was a little muddy in the video that we were watching for his free. So the music just took a back seat and it was easier to tune out. I know there's some people in our comments that have said, I think one person has said they really like that free skate music, and almost everybody else has disliked it.
Yeah, well, another listener messaged us on Instagram and said, "I really like it," and I'm like, "I'm sorry, I'm glad you do. I'm so glad you do.
Yeah,
it's just
I don't want to take that enjoyment away from you if you're into it.
I'm thrilled that you do, honestly, because it just says different taste. It's music,
sure,
so we're always going to have subjective opinions about it.
Yeah, it's getting easier to tune out. And I get it's kind of the same thing when we talk about hae-in Lee here in a bit. Her My Way program has a vocalist on it that's a little shrill and over the top, and it does kind of get under people's skin. It doesn't bother me, but I don't love it, but I don't have any problem tuning it out. And so, it's always going to be a matter of taste and what each of us can handle and not handle. But
yes,
yeah, I mean, I think this is the story of Jason Brown in the early part of the season, is that there's quirks to work out. He has really challenging programs full of incredible amounts of artistry and technical things that aren't jumps, right? His spins were outlandish here.
Oh my God, they're so beautiful.
I don't think that we get into spins all that often. There's been a lot of talk for the last couple of years of how much spins have been junked up with elements and features and technicality that makes them less aesthetic. But I challenge you to watch Jason Brown's spins and see him do all of those things and do them extraordinarily. Versus you could go back, say, a week ago to Dennis 10 and look at, say, Mikhail Shidorov, who is a terrific skater, but whose spins are probably his weakest element.
Yeah,
his spins
he's
are
improved, but
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, that's a thing he's continuing to work on, but you can always see that as being the biggest weakness in his programs, is that he's just not so great in those, versus like a Jason Brown who makes them look like a true art form. They are stunning and extraordinary. So I think that Jason's really happy with his placement here. I think, of course, he would want more than a 249.30.
And he'd want clean programs, of course.
But his ceiling is much higher. And also, it just seems like his team is like that. This is kind of where he's always at this point in the season.
Yeah.
And we always see him place around the top 6 in the world by the time Worlds comes around. So this is just part of his trajectory.
Yeah. And honestly, I feel like we're already seeing a more established version of these programs and from him than we did last season, for sure.
Yeah.
So by this point.
Yeah. And hopefully no boot problems.
Fingers crossed, because oh my gosh. What I loved seeing here was a 3rd place finish from Tomoki Hiwatashi from the US. Tomoki is such a up and down skater, hot and cold, whatever you want to call it. He's explosive. He has choreography that can only be called Tomoki. Yeah. Like, he is just his own character. And I am so happy for him to have gotten a challenger medal. That's a big deal for him.
Yes.
And I saw an interview with him after talking about getting to be on a podium with Jason, because they're both from Chicago and he kind of grew up with Jason. And so it meant so much to him to be on the podium with him. So it warmed my heart. It was really nice to see.
We unfortunately didn't actually get to see those skates, though, because we could not find them anywhere. So the kind of people who were recording these off the streams and putting them up were picking and choosing, obviously, their choices to release.
Understandably.
And unfortunately, Tomoki was not one of those. So we didn't see them. At a 237.11, he's, 12 points back from Jason, well back from the top. But yeah, a challenger medal is a big deal for him. And I like Tomoki, so excited about that. A couple of other just sort of honorable mentions. We saw Seong Lee from Korea down in 6th place. Again, I think that short program is not working out super well for him so far this season, but his free skate is so good.
It's so perfectly him. And whoever this version of Seong Lee is, I'm just still like in the WTF, where's this guy been?
Right, yeah.
I don't know.
There's a glow up there. I've always liked Seong Lee, but that program, that Bolero, really stands out, and every time I see it, I like it more. Also worth mentioning, Emily Chan's boyfriend, Estonia's Alexander Selevko.
I'm sure that's how he wants to be introduced.
I mean, there are worse things to be introduced as. I'm sure he would probably argue that, but
Mikhail's brother.
Yeah, Mikhail's brother, one half of the Selev Bros, Alexander Selevko, Sasha, however you want to call him. He put in a really strong short program. I say really strong. It still had some issues, but he has so much charisma and so much quality. He stands out so much on the ice. He was a 9th overall. I think that his free skate was kind of a disaster.
Yeah, he was an 11th, I think, in the free. So that didn't go that well. But yeah, I love this short program to Prince on him. I think it is a fantastic fit for someone as highly charismatic as him. I just want to see some more cleanliness, because he's got all the things. He's one of those, he's in that group of skaters I don't have a name for, but I should probably try to find one, of the Roman Sadovskis. You're so good, but just come on. It's all there. He's got all the things. I just want to see him to put it together again like he did at Europeans a few years ago, because he is quite good.
Right. And there's maybe 3 dudes in the entire elite competition who have some level of I guess I'd call it sex appeal, like somebody who can bring a little sexiness to the program. And I think in a Prince program, it's kind of like like Dennis Vasilievs is like one of the few
Yes.
guys who can actually bring that type of thing to the program. And so you just want to see those programs work when there's like nobody else that's really doing that thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So
You've got a lane, like,
Right.
play with it.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on to the dance because I think we're going to have that same discussion again about scoring. But a definitive win from Diana Davis and Gleb Smolkin here. The Georgian team looked excellent. These programs are great fits on them, especially their free dance.
The
I think
free
is
dance
really
is
good.
really matured in a very short period of time.
Yeah.
Even though we know from the post interviews that Gleb doesn't like the rhythm dance or the rhythm dance like theme at all for this season. He seems like he really wants to go back to traditional like tangos and stuff. I do think that program works really nicely on them, but really the free looked excellent on them here. It was really nice stuff.
Yeah, I think their short was fine. Like, I don't think it was overwhelmingly great. I think it was fine. Do I think it was better than everyone else's? Sure.
Yeah.
On the day,
yes.
But their free was significant improvement in my opinion. Again, it's talking about connection.
Yeah.
Like, their choreographers do an excellent job of working with their strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, as they should.
As they should, and that is their job. So I do feel like they play on where Diana is, strong and where she's not, and same with Gleb. And this program to me feels the most seamless with that because we've always seen that in their choreography. But here, I don't notice it as much.
Yeah.
Like in the rhythm dance, I can see where they're doing it. Whereas in this free dance, I'm like, oh no, this is just a program. And that's what I want. I want to just make it feel like I'm watching two equals out there. And they do that a lot better here.
Well, I think the thing that you said while we were watching it is that you noted the places where they put Gleb with his deeper knees in front of Diana while they're going in front of the judges.
Yeah.
And so you could kind of note the places where they would reposition the stronger skater.
Yes.
So that he's the more visible one.
Yes.
And again, that's just good strategy.
Yeah.
Right? It's like
exactly
if you watch a Fear and Gibson, like Fear and Gibson do not have all of the skating skills that the top teams do. So they build their choreography around the things that they're good at. That's what you should do. That's strategically what you should do.
Yes.
So they do that well. I do think that there were places here, just a couple of very small ones, particularly in the rhythm, where you see Diana come out of a twizzle too soon or miss just some, it looks like a missed feature. And then you don't see a review or you don't see a call on it. And we've seen that with this team a few times.
With a lot of teams, to be fair.
And yeah, and I mean, something that we're already seeing in the online fandom talk about in this season is inconsistent judging.
Yes.
Across a lot, like it doesn't matter the skater or the federation or the event, it's happening all over the place where you're seeing in the same event, people get called like crazy for cues or missed features, and then other teams and skaters not getting called on those very same things within minutes of each other. And that's a very frustrating thing from a fan to watch it and go, why are these judges going really strict on somebody and then somebody else, they're just missing things? And it felt like, while they were not big things, very much like Metlakina and Bralava, not huge things, but things that should have been at least under review, probably should have factored in. Maybe they did in the scores and I didn't see it, but in the end, I feel like a 203.39 for Davis and Smolkin does feel too, because
it's the highest score of any team so far this season. And granted, we have not seen
we haven't seen Shock and Bates, Guinard and Fabry, Gillis and Poirier.
Technically Fournier Boudre and Cizeron because they only did a French competition.
Yes.
So their score from France doesn't count.
Right. And they are chucking the rhythm dance and changing it to something else, as I understand it. Right.
I think that's a great choice.
We know that.
We haven't seen the Shib Sibs. We'll talk about that more maybe later.
Right. Yeah. And then also we haven't seen Le Joie and Lega from Canada. They are competing at some extremely small event.
The Budapest Trophy, I believe, this weekend, but I have not seen results from that yet, so I don't want to speak to it yet.
Yeah. And I think they're like the only elite team at that event.
Yeah,
which
I
is
think so.
Curious. So we just haven't seen a lot of the big marquee teams yet. So yeah, we have to kind of put that into
But we
context.
have seen that is over Fear and Gibson. That's over Reed and Amber Levicius. That is over Carrera and Ponomarenko, Smart and Deke. I don't feel great about that. Even as good as they looked here, I feel like I don't totally agree.
I think that it's a tough thing because just at this point in the season, we're seeing in a few of the different disciplines and events, we're seeing some like really huge scores that feel kind of unusual for this state of the season or this stage of the season. And really, where you're at the beginning versus the end should not affect the scores.
No.
But we know they generally do, right? Like it always feels
At
like
least in
scores
ice dance.
elevate. And that, I mean, I feel like all the disciplines, I feel like they typically just kind of go up towards the end of the season because everybody wants to see the biggest scores at Worlds and the biggest scores at the Olympics, right? That's what it always feels like. But we are also seeing things like, Brady Tennell have that like massive score at a small event like a week or so ago. So I feel like until the Grand Prix happens and we actually have the biggest marquee teams in there, I feel like we don't have a true baseline.
That's fair.
For how that looks.
That's really fair. So getting emotional about it is probably unnecessary at this point.
I don't feel like it's emotional. I think it's just like, it's again, recognizing that the numbers here feel a little inflated and things that maybe should have been called didn't seem like they were. And if they were, I just definitely didn't see it happen.
No. But in second, I did see a really, really nice progression on the free dance from Holly Harris and Jason Chan. And getting a second place silver here, I think it really continues to prove the point of improvement from this team. They have really grown. And I mean, they landed with a 180.84. It's not a bad score at all, but not a huge score either. But it definitely moves them forward. And man, that free dance, it's just so good. It's really, really good. It's
a beautiful program. I think that like a lot of the teams are going to struggle with this year is that their rhythm dance is okay.
It's fine.
It's fine.
It's just okay.
And as much as I have grown to really enjoy this team, which has come slightly as a surprise because they really didn't make much of an impact on me until last year, that free dance is gorgeous and I absolutely loved it here. So I think 180.84 based on the quality of that free versus the kind of a lack of wow that the rhythm has, it feels okay. It does feel wild to have a 23-point difference between them and Davis and Smolkin, but here's a place where like I probably should sit down with the protocols and just really compare levels and what they're getting on the technical aspects. Because, the problem with ice dance is that if you see a bunch of really good teams versus each other, you either get a lot of things that feel basically the same and it's hard to figure out why one team is significantly better than the other, or you get a wildly out of pocket better team that makes everybody else look really bad, and then you're like, oh, that's what good stuff looks like. Right. I don't know that Davis and Smolkin feel like that wild difference between some of the other teams in here. But again, they did definitively win. I don't have any argument against that.
No. The thing that I was if we're talking about a definitive emotional reaction, Desmogés and Lemercier, they were in second after the short, which I think was perfectly reasonable. Their short, their rhythm dance was definitely like up there in the top three.
Yeah.
Their free dance, I was genuinely a little concerned watching Desmogés because she looked like she couldn't breathe through some of it.
Yeah, when they finished that free dance, Luisha looked like she was having like an asthma attack or something. Like I don't know if that's what it was, but she looked, she was like bent over, face red, had to be kind of helped, a little bit off the ice and helped into the kiss and cry afterwards. Like she just looked wiped. And I don't know if she had been maybe ill ahead of time or was ill there, or if maybe she does have something like asthma, or something like that might be affecting her. And you saw it a little bit after the rhythm.
A little bit, but it still looked okay there. And I thought that program was really strong. But more so in the program itself, in the free, I could feel they were a little slower. They were definitely a little bit more measured in their movements. The last, I'd say 30 seconds, like whenever they kind of have a punch up in the music, they came alive a little bit more and she looked great. But by that last 5 seconds, I felt like she was going to collapse.
Yeah.
So I think it was the adrenaline keeping her going. And then her body just gave up.
Yeah. Overall, though, from their performances, that rhythm dance, I can't identify it as much as far as like 90s-ishness.
No.
But I do like it overall. If you kind of take it out of the thematic, and it could just be that, they're French and they're doing French 90s, which could be very different from my US 90s, my perception of it. But I do like it. I actually really like that free dance a lot. We've talked about it from earlier performances. I love the costumes. I in general,
I like the blue hair.
Yeah. I always love Luisha's commitment to the bit with her hair, for sure. And I like this team a lot. And I think that they have been putting pressure on Lapareva and Berceau this season, with the shakeup in the French Ice Dance Federation. So, they've got a lot to prove this season looking for that other Olympic spot. But yeah, I think that they still acquitted themselves well. And I think 2 points behind Harrison Chan is probably kind of on point here.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't have a big argument with that.
No.
I actually kind of expected a little bit better performances out of Becker and Hernandez from the British team. But this is, I feel like, my first time really seeing them this season. And last year they had that amazing James Bond program.
Fantastic.
That looked awesome on them. And I just think the programs here just don't hit for me the same way that they did. Because when we saw them at Worlds last year, they were phenomenal. They were well back in the pack, but they were absolutely terrific and very memorable. And I just don't find these programs memorable yet. But they still were third after the rhythm, fourth after the free.
Yeah. And I liked their rhythm dance. I actually think it's a great music choice for them. And I think it'll get better because they don't have their costumes yet. They looked a little still like rusty, out of sync. That said, I think that they're really moving up this season. So I'm excited to see where they go. Well, let's wrap up Trialeti Trophy with the women. Anastasia Gubanova, I think, looked phenomenal here. And she lived up to the moment that she obviously wanted to in Georgia in front of a home crowd, and was just lovely in general.
When we saw her at the Olympic qualifier, she looked really strong. It was our first look at these programs, and they were very nice. I think they looked better here.
Yeah.
That free skate to the music from Ghost, she's so obviously connected to it. And I think that's really important because something that we've always seen from Goobs is that she's often really strong in the short program, discounting last year's Worlds because that was a massive fluke. But she seems to lose focus sometimes in the free skates, and she's this like incredibly elegant skater, but it sometimes will feel like she disconnects from the music in the moment, and you'll see free skates fall apart. I think this program, because it's connected to a film that she cares a lot about and has a real emotional connection to, she seems much more present in it throughout the performances.
Agreed.
There. And she did a lovely job with it here. And also, I mean, her like kind of Bollywood Indian-esque short program also looks great on her. I thought maybe that looked a little sharper at the Olympic qualifier than it did here, but the free really hit for me.
Yeah, I agree with that. Again, we didn't necessarily see enough to know if there were maybe under rotation issues, because I did wonder on a few of her jumps if there were at least cues.
Yeah, and usually Anastasia has some cues in her program.
Yeah, but regardless of the errors, I do think she definitively, won, and the score reflects that. She won by almost 20 points here, and I would never argue it.
No, and I think a 2:03.69 for the performance that she put out, and thinking about some of the other top women this season.
Yeah, it seems pretty fair.
Yeah.
But again, with the asterisks of, I don't know the protocols to go back and say if she had more cues or under rotations that I might not have noticed.
Yeah. But very, very enjoyable.
Very
really
enjoyable and a great win.
Yeah.
Surprise kind of silver for Maria Sunuik from Israel. She was fifth after the short, second in the free. And her free skate is a Stranger Things thematic.
Yeah.
And what's really kind of fun about it is like watching about maybe 2/3 of the way through the program, it goes into the running up that hill music. And you can see someone who is still very junior, and her movements are very, very junior. But in that moment where that music change happens, you can see her light up. And it's just kind of fun to watch because you see the performer that she maybe will be, in a few years come out, because she definitely like kind of gets that surge.
Yeah. We saw her in Nepal a few weeks ago, and she stood out there as somebody who was, much like here, put together a very competent skate that had highlight moments, even if a lot of it felt very junior still. Just over a couple of competitions, she's made her presence known, and coming in second here against a few other pretty notable competitors with a 185.80. I mean, 185.80 for a skater of her level is really strong.
It is.
And yeah, I mean, that point in the free where she talks about how like Benoit Richaud suggested that program to her. She is playing the part of 11. That's the character that she's playing. And you don't feel that so much through the first half of the program, but there is a part where there is an audio break from the TV show, and she really does play 11 in that moment. And like you said, it turns into Running Up That Hill, which of course is a terrific song, and we've seen other people skate to it, and you can see that it just works on the ice. It's one of those songs I feel like we're going to see a lot of over the coming years because it's so good, and it does really bring her to life. So yeah, everything you said there. I think that this is a skater that still has a long way to go to be a terrific performer, but the fundamentals are there.
Yeah.
And I think in a couple of years, we might see her turn into something pretty special.
It is hard to watch anybody else but Wakaba skate to that music, though, I will admit.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Because in my head, I was kind of like going back and watching Wakaba's program.
Sure, of course.
Third place here, Hanley from Korea. We saw her last week win the Dennis 10 Memorial. Here she had a few more errors, but with, I don't know, good humor.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you look at it here, like she's a little more than 2 points behind the second place finisher. And really the difference there is that in her free, she singles her first jump in that free skate. And it's just, it looks like a moment of concentration loss, right? Like it just seems like she gets into the mode, hits that first thing and her body bails out on it. And her face in that moment is a pure, what the hell? Like why did that just happen?
Yeah.
The rest of the program looks really strong. You know, there's
few issues,
a few little issues, but nothing significant. It's still a really good Carmen, and she performs it very well. But it's hilarious that she finishes it, has the big dramatic finish, pops up, and then just puts her hands up and points over to the ice where that pop had taken place with a, I don't know what just happened, and just kind of laughing. And she comes off the ice, obviously laughing at her coach, who, not for nothing, looks like he could have been Bobby from K-pop Demon Hunters.
He totally
His
does.
vibe is so Bobby. They just need to get him a blazer and he'd be so on for that. But yeah, I mean, she handles that with good humor, and you can even see them when the score comes where they look at it and they're like, oh, that's what, you know, that's what did it.
That
like,
one jump.
That one jump is what takes it down. And yeah, I think that the short had a few weaknesses in it as well. So she didn't skate as well here as she did at Dennis 10, but still ending up on the podium, not very far behind the second place, knowing that she missed that second place because of a pop jump. I think this still bodes well for her.
I agree.
Going through the rest of the season.
I'm optimistic at this point. I hope I stay that way for hae-in, but it's been a nice thing to see already in this early part of the season with her. So fingers crossed.
Also back-to-back competitions.
That's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
And we saw that from a number of people because
Yes.
Nika and Jason Brown and hae-in and several other people here, like, were all coming right off of competitions a week earlier, oftentimes with significant travel. So you kind of have to factor that in when you just don't get a lot of rest and prep.
Absolutely. In fourth here, I do want to mention Anna Pizzetta. She was second after a very strong short program, but seventh in the free. The free just looked rough.
Yeah.
Like, she is such a strong technical skater, like an incredible jumper, but her jumps were just not working here. And she just looked nervous and tight through that whole free skate.
Yeah. Even when she just took the ice, she doesn't have a game face when her nerves are overtaking her, and you could just see it in her expression through the whole program. And yeah, it was a shame to see that come apart because the short program was really strong. She is much like we were saying about some of the other skaters, a terrific technical skater who does not always have the artistry and skating skills in places where you want to see it look really beautiful. But the aesthetics of her jumps are so gorgeous, like the length that she gets on them,
the distance, incredible.
Yeah, and just the look of her jumps in the air are just chef's kiss. But when you look at her versus the interior competition in Italy versus Laura Naki Gutman, where you have very different skating styles between the two of them, Laura has just looked so confident in her skates, and her artistry has been so terrific. And if Anna wants to keep up with her, she's just got to shore up some of those elements and make those jumps land. And it just didn't work as well here.
It didn't. Do you want to give an honorable mention shout out to Star Andrews? She was fourth in the short. She looked fantastic there. The free didn't go nearly as well, but I really like that short program. It's looking great on her.
Yeah.
And also Ava Marie Ziegler. This is only her second competition back. And I thought her free skate especially looked really nice here. Like, she still has a long way to go, but she looked really happy coming off the ice after that free skate. And it's just nice to see where you, like, she ended up only with like a 161, I believe. And it, that number wouldn't make a lot of people happy, but she like raised a fist in the air. Like, you could see that, yay, progress.
Yeah. She literally like kicks her feet up with excitement when she sees her total. So, she's coming back after a year away after significant surgeries. We didn't know if we were even going to see her because she had initially canceled some of her original appearances. So even having her here feels like a win. There's holes in these programs, and there was a lot of like pops and doubles and places where things need to be repaired. But in the end, she seemed really happy when she came off the ice with the free, clearly happy with her overall total. I do have some questions around that free skate costume because
It's a little odd.
It's a little overdone. It's a little
Yeah.
distracting, and I don't quite thematically get it with the program. That I raise a little bit of an eyebrow at, but otherwise, just happy to see her back on the ice.
I try not to raise any eyebrows at skating outfits, but sometimes they do. Whenever they're distracting.
Yeah.
It's anything that's going to take away from it is the problem.
Exactly.
Anyway, I think that nicely wraps up the Trialeti Trophy, which I thought was overall, like, obviously a very well handled event and nice for Georgia to get one. So, yeah, I think we can move on to getting excited about what feels like the real start to the season. I know that that's weird to say after we have spent, I don't even know how many episodes talking about this season already.
I feel like in every season previously, I would have always said, okay, the Grand Prix is when things really get going. But this season's Challenger Series, maybe because we're just paying more attention to it, either because of doing this show or because it is the Olympic season or what, but it just feels like there's more on the line in the Challenger this year than there has been previously.
Maybe it's better to say this is when it gets real.
Oh, yeah, because this is where we're going to get like your highest level competitors in these much more condensed events where you're not
valuable events.
Yeah, very, very valuable events, because a medal at any of these Challenger Series events is still a very significant achievement, but they don't rank up the same way that a Grand Prix event, at least in part because the Grand Prix has fewer competitors and it is the elite competitors who have earned their way, typically with some caveats, into being in these spots.
And especially into the final that it all leads to.
Right, yeah.
So much more pressure to get into that final, especially from your top competitors.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're just, when we say Grand Prix preview, we're really going to be talking about is the Grand Prix de France, because that's our first, the unusual thing is that it kicks off the Grand Prix series this year rather than Skate America. And we're just going to run through each of the disciplines here and get a look at the competitors we're going to see and look at where their scores are so far, if we have seen them, to get a sense of how they're all doing at this point and kind of what we can expect.
Yeah. Well, let's start with the men, because especially in France, that one's going to be hotly contested. We have Ilya Malinin, who is your expected winner, and expected feels like a minimal statement.
I mean, as long as he's healthy and as long as he doesn't fall apart, he bulldozes this competition.
Yeah. I mean, he's the highest score of anyone this season by 21 points. And that's over Yuma Kageyama, who is not here.
Yeah.
So he's got a big cushion going in. But, ice is slippery. You never know what's going to happen. But Ilya Malinin comes in here as a hefty favorite. But we're also going to see Adam Shohim-Fa here, who has not looked spectacular this season, but has improved from the first competition to the second. So, and frankly, I feel like we don't ever quite know what we're going to get out of him right now. So he is capable of beating a 3:06.65, or at least getting really close to it.
Yeah.
He's beaten Ilya at this competition before.
Right.
So it is not out of the realm of possibility. It's just not what we've seen so far.
Yeah. And we've seen him a couple of times this season in international and domestic competitions. And his top score of the season is 60 points back from the 300s. So he is well behind what we know he's capable of. But particularly this free skate hasn't looked entirely put together yet.
No.
And he has not been landing all of his jumps, and the layout hasn't quite been working. So my hope is that after that last French event, they took some time to recalibrate and make some fixes. He's one of my favorite skaters. I love the identity of what he does. I love his artistry, but he has got to get clean for these programs to hit, and they just have not yet.
No, his short at that small French competition that we saw a couple of weeks ago looked much better. He almost cracked 100 with that. So that's encouraging.
Yeah.
Whenever you see a short program that good. It's that free skate that I'm most worried about. However, we're also going to see Nika Agatsi again. So this will be the third week in a row for him competing.
And that's intense. I worry about that for Nika, to go from Kazakhstan to Georgia to France back to back to back.
It's gotta be exhausting.
Yeah, it seems like, and some people thrive under that kind of pressure,
sure.
But I don't know how that will work for Nika. But, we were just looking at, he just got his season's best with a 266.90, and that's with a lot of mistakes. I think Nika can easily push into the 280s. Again, he doesn't have the components typically to get him a lot higher, but he could very easily be in that silver medal position at this event.
For sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Lucas Britschke from Switzerland is also going to be here. He is the reigning European champion. and is capable of much better than his current top score of the season of a 236.06. That was just a bad competition overall for him. So I kind of expect we'll see him on the podium here. I will shrug and say maybe, maybe not. But if he skates what he's capable of, he should be in that running.
But I think that's the case for, like, if we look through the rest of this list, you look at,
it's
like,
really kind of the case for everybody.
Everybody.
Isn't it?
Like,
yeah.
you look at Lucas, you look at Kalmira from Japan, Tatsuya Tsuboy from Japan, Andrew Torgashev from the US, Mikhail Selevko from Estonia. Like, all of these guys are capable of much more than what we've seen them do this season, but they're all kind of hovering around in, like, the 230s somewhere. And that is really low for the elite dudes, right?
Yeah.
Like, these guys have quads, have artistry, have ability, and we just have not seen it yet. So,
Kao should absolutely be on this podium if
yes.
you go on the basis of what he is capable of.
Right.
But Kao has not looked strong for a while.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he's a guy who has just looked way too messy. I like his programs this season.
I really like his programs.
I like his samurai free quite a lot, but
Very
it just
cool.
hasn't been at all clean yet. So
Nope.
if he could get those programs together, he's easily in competition with Nika Agatsi and has more artistry than him, but he's got to skate clean, and we just have not seen it from him at all.
I know he's buddies with Ilya, so I'm hoping that Ilya and Kao being there together will boost the morale of Kao and make him skate better.
Yeah.
I don't know if that'll happen, but that's my hope. The person I am most curious to see that we have not mentioned yet is Max Naumov from the US. He didn't have a great outing in his first competition, but I love especially his short program this season. It is gorgeous. His long is also great.
Yeah.
But that short program is special. And gosh, I hope so much for just clean skates.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing.
Max is one of those guys who has some quads, but not a lot. So he's got to skate super clean, and he has to lean into the quality of his skating skills and his artistry in order to come up. But he has to skate clean, and we just haven't quite seen that yet.
But also, it's worth noting him and Torgashev both being here feels intentional from the U.S. because those two guys have been third and fourth or second and fourth. Like unfortunately, Naumov has kind of been fourth forever in the U.S. But they are both contesting that third spot for the men for the Olympics. So that's really, I think, why I want to see Max do really well here.
For sure.
Let's move on to the dance, because this is where we're going to get our first look at Charlene Guinard and Marco Fabbri from Italy this year. And I haven't even heard what their programs are going to be yet.
Not a clue. I feel like they've been radio silent for a while. I have just not seen much from them. And the commentary around them last season was always crappy free program. The free dance last year was that robot program that very few people liked. Judges clearly didn't care for it. They stuck with it. They made changes to it, but the taste level of it just never felt like a champion taste level.
And they are champion level skaters.
They
are so good.
They are an amazing team. And I am certain this is their final season.
Yeah.
And I want to see a final season set of programs from them that really illustrates what they do so well, but also leans into their strengths and shows a better taste level than what last year's programs did. They are too good for what they were getting last year.
Agreed.
And they got knocked down pretty solidly.
Well, they were fourth in Worlds, and the people that knocked them off that podium are also here because they're always competing against Lila Fear and Lewis Gibson from Great Britain.
Yeah, this is the European rematch of these two teams where Fear and Gibson are not as good a skating skills team as Guinard and Fabbri are, but they're exciting. They're super fun. They engage audiences on a different level.
They're far more charismatic.
Yes, they're a very, very charismatic team. Now, I have not yet loved their programs this season.
I love that Scottish program.
I like the Scottish program a lot, but I haven't seen it be great yet.
No, I agree with that.
And that's okay because it's still the early season. I just don't really care for their Spice Girls rhythm dance.
I want to love it so hard.
I do. I want to love it, but it doesn't quite hit for me. I expect that they will have made additional tweaks. They've already changed it quite a lot. I think both these programs are going to be realigned a little bit, recalibrated. And I think they come in here with a little bit of an advantage of having had a couple of outings to make improvements and fix it up and figure it out. At the same time, they've been seen a couple of times, so judges are going to have certain levels of expectations.
And their scores have not been what they usually expect.
Right. And Guinard and Fabbri will come out here cold, but with no expectations. So if they look really good, they could get a little bit of an advantage out of that.
But we also are going to get our first international look at Laurence Fournier-Boudre and Guillaume Cizeron. So they have competed once already this season, but it was at the French Masters. So their current high score of the season is 219.07, which is bonkers high.
Yeah. But not real.
But not real. So take it with a grain of salt. So again, they have apparently recalibrated and gotten a new rhythm dance. I have no idea if that we'll see that here or if we're going to still see the old one because it's not ready yet. No idea. But that said, I can't imagine they're not going to be hotly in the mix for that podium here. It'll be very interesting to see them, how the international judges rank them against those two teams we've already talked about and everyone else that is here, because it's a really strong field overall.
Davis and Smolkin from Georgia are here again back to back with that event from Georgia and with that really high score that they got there. And so now we're going to see them against higher caliber teams and see how that kind of relates, because their 203.39 is higher than Fear and Gibson's so far this season. We'll see Reed and Ambrulevicius from Lithuania. They got a 198.73 at the Olympic qualifier event. Looked terrific there. That's kind of in the pocket of they are technically usually kind of a second tier team.
Yeah.
But they are fantastic and they should be amongst some of those top tier teams.
And they have been top 6 in the world before.
We'll see Peyton Bai again, who won Lombardia with a surprise victory there and a 186.96, which is pretty strong for them. I don't think they're in the running for the podium here by any means, but I'm really looking forward to seeing those programs again.
And that's going to be interesting because we're going to get our first look at Emily Brody and Ian Somerville. And as we've been talking about all the competitions within a competition, we have 3 U.S. spots to go to the Olympics, and those 2 teams are amongst them that are competing to get that spot. So it is worth noting that those 2 teams are going to essentially be fighting each other for placement, even if they're not fighting for a podium spot.
And Brody and Somerville made a real case for themselves last season after having a pretty miserable showing at Worlds 2 years ago. They came back strong last year and were looking really, really good. So I'll be very curious to see their new programs and what they look like this season. And it is kind of fascinating that we have not seen them yet.
Yeah. And my current favorite program of the season belongs to Marie-Jade Laurent and Romain Lagac from Canada, and they will also be here. And their score is not that different than Allison and Solius's from Lithuania. So I think we're going to see that section of teams all be fairly tight.
Yeah. I mean, I think the top 6 is going to be a real face-off.
Yeah,
here.
So I'm excited for this competition. I think it'll be very interesting. Let's move on to the women's competition.
Oh my gosh, there's a lot happening in the women's competition.
There is a lot happening in this competition. We get Kaori Sakamoto, our reigning world silver medalist and 3-time world champion and, queen of women's figure skating overall, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because it's Kaori.
Yeah.
But her best score this season is a 203.64, which is not as high as both Isabeau Levito from the U.S., who will also be here, nor 2 of her Japan teammates, Ami Nakai and Ryon Miyoshi.
We haven't seen terrific stuff from Kaori, and we know that her general threshold is much higher. So I'm not too worried about that 203.64 that she has. I do think that when we look at how terrifically Ryon Miyoshi performed at Lombardia, especially her free skate, I love that free skate from Ryon. It's so good. And we've talked a lot over the last few seasons about what a sleeper skater Ryon Miyoshi is, because she can be very hot and cold, but when she's hot, she's on fire, and she looked really, really good there, super strong. But Ami Nakai was fantastic at Lombardia.
She was.
And again, a skater who is like a little more middle of the pack of the Japanese skaters until she shows up at one of these events and then just kind of blows you out of the water.
Yeah.
And she's a very, very exciting young skater. And she's sitting at what you said, a 206.04, very, very competitive. We look at Isabeau Levito from the US. Isabeau, I think, is in one of those situations this season that she may not have envisioned for herself over the last couple of years, which is a hotter contest for those 3 spots of the American women at the Olympics.
Yes.
I think if you said 2 seasons ago, you would have said she's the obvious front runner to go straight to the top of that list.
Yeah.
And while I think she's still an obvious pick, that competition is a lot stronger with the return and rise of Alyssa Liu, the fantastic performances from Amber Glenn, Brady Tennell, who has really been making a case for herself at the end of last season and the start of this one, and just how good Sarah Everhart is. So there's a much stronger competition within the American ranks right now. And Isabeau was kind of absent for a lot of last season. And even though she did well at Worlds, she was 4th overall there. We've seen her programs look just a little safe so far this season.
I mean, both of her programs are designed to be Isabeau programs. There's not a lot, and I get it. She's sticking to what works.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I agree. I feel like she's definitely got a little more heat and pressure on her. But as we've said before, Isabeau thrives often in the biggest stressors.
Yeah.
Like her best performances seem to come when she is under the gun.
Yeah, she's clutch.
She is very clutch. So I'm thinking this will help, not hurt her, but we'll see.
But what we've kind of seen over the last couple of years is a little bit more attention to under rotations and little bits of mistakes. If you think about last year at Skate America, where when we were in the audience for that one, where it looked amazing in the arena, but the people at home were seeing the things that we weren't seeing there, like seeing the under rotations, seeing the reviews. And when she ended up in 3rd at that event, was not a surprise for the home audience, but it was for those of us who were in the arena.
Oh, the arena felt bizarre.
Yeah,
everyone just had this deflated, like, oh.
Yeah, it was like a gut punch. And it was just, there's just that moment I remember of her getting the score, seeing that she was in 3rd, not in 1st. And then just the lights went down on the arena.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, it felt like a movie moment where it was just like, she's in a spotlight with those big doe eyes of, I can't believe that just happened. And then just boom, everything went dark. And it was like, the whole audience was like, oh, it was, it was, like I said, a real gut punch.
It was.
Isabeau is a terrific skater. I don't love these programs yet. And the free, to me, does feel just kind of safely in the pocket of what Isabeau does. And that frustrates me a little bit. But considering the places where, that jump technique that has failed her in the past couple of years, sometimes when she just sits down jumps, she's got to play to those strengths. She's got to stay up, and she can't allow those under rotations to get in her way. So if she's skating defensively to keep those programs clean, that's understandable.
Absolutely. The thing I am most curious about here is Cheon Kim from Korea, who is a former world medalist, brilliant, brilliant skater, should be absolutely contending for one of the medal spots here.
Last year's 4 continents champion.
Gorgeous, but has had a very rough, understandably, world championships after having had a car accident. And this season, she has not looked great so far.
Yeah.
Her highest score is a 148.96. And I think when we talked about that in the moment, it looked like she was having some kind of maybe an injury or a boot problem. She kept taking her skates off and rubbing her ankles. And she did not look surprised by how low those scores were or how poorly she skated.
Yeah, that was at Nepala. She was laughing it off. Like, she very clearly, she and her team went into that event not expecting high scores, not expecting her to do super well. So that gives me hope.
It does.
That they knew that one wasn't going to go well, and they were maybe even watering down those programs. But her staying up has seemed challenging so far. She's one of my favorite skaters. I love Cheon Kim. I love her programs. I love what she brings to the ice. She is capable of, 50 to 60 points higher than what she's done. I want to see that return here. I want to see a Cheon Kim back in that real race for the podium, but we just don't have the data on it yet to see it be strong.
Agreed.
However, Korea is going to field somebody we have not seen in a long time because Young Yu is going to be here.
I'm so curious to see what we see out of Young Yu. I'm a fan. You are a very big fan.
I love Young Yu skating, and I've really missed her presence over the last year. She was part of that suspension that happened with hae-in Lee over the summer last year, and that's a whole other thing that's wild and complicated. But she has been out of competition until now, and Young Yu has the least poker face of anybody outside of like Maddie Schizis. There is that sense of her just being over the BS sometimes, and I like that about her.
I do too.
And when she's good, she's great, but she's also inconsistent.
Yes.
And we haven't seen her for a year, so I have no idea what we're going to get from her.
Yeah, that is going to be a complete surprise, for better or worse. I'm hoping for better. I do want to see better from Elise Lynn Gracie. She just looked slightly disoriented, for lack of a better
word. I'd say
word.
more than slightly. She looked very like she was having an out-of-body experience.
Yeah,
the last time we saw her.
Yeah, so I'm just hoping just for a better competition overall from her. No podium expectations. This is not last year where I feel like that pressure was already building for her. I just want her to feel better and come away satisfied. That is my only hope for her.
I mean, this is a skater that has scored, I think, in the 220s before.
Something like that. Like huge, 213 maybe.
Maybe
213, big.
But huge. Yeah. She had a massive score at the beginning of last season, and it's just been chasing that score ever since.
Yeah.
And coming in here, if she got on the podium, it'd be extraordinary.
It'd be insane.
But I would love to see her get back to that level, but she does look like she is just not quite in the programs yet. And it was unusual to see last time.
Yes.
Oh, I'm very curious to see what France's Clémence Mayindu does here, because she was the person who at Nepola skated to a program full of F-bombs.
So you're curious what her music edit is.
Yeah. I'm like, is she going to come to France and are they going to be like, you can't do that again? Or are they going to let it run because it's France and they don't care? I don't know. She's nowhere in competition here, but I'll be very, very curious to see if that program sounds the same.
That's funny. Okay, moving to pairs. We are going to see the rematch between Riku Miura and Ryuichi Kihara and Deanna Stellato-Dudek and Maxime Deschamps.
Yeah, Miura and Kihara have looked terrific so far this season. Their top score so far has been a 222.94. And that was with some errors. So their threshold, their ceiling is definitely higher. That short program, the Paint It Black, is awesome.
So good.
Love it. And the free is terrific, but just had the most little spotty problems here and there, little under rotations or problems for Riku on the side-by-sides. But I love them. And I always really enjoy this team. I like these programs. And they look like championship programs.
Oh, they do. They really do. I honestly feel like they're going to be very hard to beat here. Deanna and Max's material, like we've only seen them once at that John Nix Parish Challenge a while ago.
Yeah, and that was kind of a weird event because, it was just in a club. It wasn't in a full arena. And a lot of the teams felt like they were just doing practice runs, honestly.
A little bit. And I mean, it was really early.
Yes.
Like it was quite a while ago at this point.
Yeah.
So it's not terribly surprising that their scores was a 199.43 there, that they won with very easily. But still, I'm very excited to see these programs again. I'm curious if they're going to keep that assisted backflip.
Yeah, in the middle of the short program.
Yeah.
Yeah. What feedback they got from the judges overall? Like, is that like, if people think that's cool? I mean, I thought it was fun in the program.
I did. So I had no problem with it. But
it's super ballsy.
It is so ballsy. So yeah, I'm just very, very curious. We're also going to get our first look at Maria Pavlova and Alexei Sviatchenko this season. We haven't seen them yet on the Challenger Series, so they tend to just be in third or fourth.
Fourth, yeah. The Hungarians over a couple of years were like almost always in fourth place in the Grand Prix, at the Grand Prix final. They were always like right there, but not quite. Last year, their program started falling apart a bit.
Yeah.
And it seemed like it took a long time for them to bring it back together. I like this team a lot. I think they're super fun. I think they just had some repairs to do. I'm hoping the material is stronger this season.
Same. I am curious also to see Anastasia Gulebova and Hector Giatopoulos more from Australia. We haven't seen them in a little while, and I think they were supposed to be at a Challenger event and pulled out. So curious to see how they look here. They looked great at Four Continents the last time I remember seeing.
They were improving a lot towards the end of last season.
They were at Worlds, weren't they? Maybe? I can't remember now.
I honestly don't know.
I think
they
idea.
Should have been, but
regardless, it's been a minute since we've seen them, and this team, just from my perspective, just keeps getting better in terms of how connected they are.
Sure.
So if they're clean, they should absolutely be fighting for a medal here.
Yeah, I mean, they're a really good team. Artistically, they're very strong. And I just think they've had steady improvement. But it's been a while, so it'll be interesting to see them. But we do get to see Audrey Shin and Balazs Naz from the U.S. here again. We've seen them a couple of times so far this season. They were at that John Nix Paris Challenge where they were not very good at all.
No, that was a rough one.
But then at the Olympic qualifier, they did not manage to clinch a qualifier spot, but they performed much, much better there and looked far more connected. They've topped out so far this season with a 165.76, so they're well back from the top of the pack. I still think that this is a team that has a threshold much, much higher than what we've seen from them. All of the ingredients are there. It's still just like getting that to mix up correctly.
Yeah.
And so I have high hopes that we're going to see better stuff from them. And I still think they're an exciting team. And it made me happy that they performed a lot better at the qualifier.
I think that brings us to the end of what we hope to see at Grand Prix de France.
Do you want to pick some
podiums?
Some podiums?
Ooh,
sure.
I'm excited to pick some podiums.
Yeah, like who do we think how it's gonna come out here?
All right. For the men, I'm going Ilya, Nika, Lucas. Honestly, think that's what I'm going with.
I'm gonna say Ilya, Kalmura, Nika Agazzi. I'm putting Nika in third because he's doing 3 back-to-back competitions.
Fair.
And I'm just sort of willing a better performance out of Kalmura. The likelihood that he actually does that is probably pretty low, but But it's possible. It's possible.
Whereas I am not putting Adam on that podium out of fear.
Yeah.
Frankly, I want to put him there so badly.
Yeah.
But I don't want to jinx him, so I'm just keeping him off of that.
Yeah.
Any superstitions I have, I'm just leaving Adam off, and please surprise me for the better.
Yeah.
Oh, dance is a hard one. I'm going Guignard and Fabry, Fear and Gibson, Fournier, Boudry, and Cizeron.
Interesting. Wow.
I don't know that that's right in any capacity, but that's my guess.
Sure. I'm going to say Guignard and Fabry in first, Fournier, Boudry, and Cizeron in second, and Fear and Gibson in third.
I think you're probably closer to accurate.
And I want to put in there that...
Oh, it's happening in France. I'm revising my statement.
It's happening in France, but also I wouldn't put it out of the realm of possibility that Davis and Smolkin could bump off Fear and Gibson if they don't have good skates.
Ooh.
It would be real weird to see that, especially considering
weird.
a lot of the other competitors here, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. It's
also not out of the realm of possibility that Fournier, Boudry, and Cizeron win this whole damn thing.
Yeah, it is possible. And because we have no idea what Guignard and Fabry are going to put on here.
Well, we also don't know how international judges are going to respond.
Yeah.
Because this is new territory.
We have no data on that.
We have no
one.
data.
Yeah. There's a lot of empty parameters here that we can't fill in.
That one's going to be wild.
Yeah.
All right, women, I am going Kaori Sakamoto on the top. I'm putting Rion Sumiyoshi in silver and Isabel Oviedo in bronze.
I sort of expect a surprise top of podium here.
Ooh.
I'm going to throw Amy Nakai.
Whoa.
I'm sorry. I'm going to throw Ami Nakai.
Interesting.
At the top of this podium with Kaori Sakamoto in second, and then a full toss-up between Isabeau and Rion. I just sort of expect this one's going to shake up. I don't know why. That's just my gut feeling. Or it'll be like Rion at the top. Something weird's going to happen here. That's what I think.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I like it. All right, pairs. I'm going Riku and Ryu at the top of the podium, Deanna and Max in silver, and I'm going to put Gulebova and Giotopoulos more in third.
Yeah, I like that. I think that Gulebova and Giotopoulos more and Pavlova and Sviatchenko could go either way, but we haven't seen them.
And Deanna and Max could go either way because, we don't know what to expect. They can be right up there in the same scoring bracket as Miura and Chiara, or they could be in fourth.
It could go a lot of different directions. You also have the Kovalevs from France here. And
I just hope they have a good time.
Yeah.
That's all.
We've talked a lot about them as far as like a team that feels on the decline, but is holding out for France and for like the team event.
And I'm also pretty sure that they now have their Olympic berth because I think that team that we thought was going to pull out from.
Oh, yeah. It does look like the Uzbekistan team that came on so strong last year is just over.
Yeah. So
I don't know if we've ever seen a direct confirmation other than she has said an Instagram post, like when people have been like, are you going to be competing somewhere? And she just responds with no.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're over. So
it just feels like they're done. So
I think the Kovalevs are going to the Olympics in the Paris competition now because that they landed in fourth.
Yeah, they're the first alternate.
Yeah.
And it seems like and in Uzbekistan, they locked it at Worlds, but that team's gone and they don't have another competitive team.
Right. So it's very likely at least.
Yeah. And the Kovalevs, their top score of the season is 171.58. That's not out of the realm of possibility for getting on the podium here.
It's not at all because we have no idea what we're going to see from the Hungarians and Australian team. So yeah, totally could be the surprise on the podium team.
Before we get to Gold in Our Hearts, I think there's one thing that we have to address, and I think just really briefly, it's not fun.
Thing.
But at this point, it's kind of going through all of the world of figure skating commentary, and that is just there is a leaked video of the Shibutani siblings from a Live Barn broadcast. And if you're not familiar, and I didn't know what this was, I'd never heard of it before. So Live Barn is a service that has cameras in competitive rinks and clubs all over the place. And they're basically constantly live streaming whenever there's practices. So if you have a subscription to Live Barn, you can tune in to clubs all over the place and just watch any place where a public skate is happening, just to kind of watch teams or skaters or whoever while they're training. Now, it is possible during private skate times to have that shut off so people cannot see it, and elite teams do that all the time. But somebody was watching those feeds while there was what looks like a private skate time, because it is just Maya and Alex Shibutani and either a coach or their mom. It's not clear in the video who the third person is off the side of the ice.
Yeah, because the view is from quite a distance.
Yeah, it's quite a distance away, but you do have audio from the ice. And the original video is something like 40 minutes long. The one that is making the rounds on social media is about 11 minutes.
And for the record, we do not recommend going and watching this, because I would not want to do that.
A lot of people are going to find watching this video very triggering, because...
And also, it feels invasive, particularly to Maya.
Yeah. The short version is that it's about 9 or 10 solid minutes of Alex Shibutani just berating Maya on the ice. They're very clearly having a frustrating time getting their programs together and making it work. They are not on the ice in Florida with their typical coaches, and it seems like Alex is basically in charge of their training while they're doing this in somewhere in California. And on one level, we know that elite competitors and their coaches can get into squabbles with each other, right?
Siblings.
Yeah, and siblings. Intensity and frustration and anger can bubble up when things aren't going right. A lot of people will say, get into any competitive sport, you're going to find screaming matches between people when things aren't going well or when they're having a difference of opinion. It's not saying that that's a good thing or that it should be normal. It's just like human behavior bubbles over sometimes when that level of stress overtakes people.
That said,
watching the video, it is difficult to look at Maya's body posture where she basically just freezes up, locks her position in place on the ice, has her head down, while Alex skates around her, calling her insults. His body language is one of incredible frustration, and the things that he calls her are way out of line.
Way out of line.
And it's not the type of argument that adult siblings should have. Let me throw in
adult
here.
People.
Oh, yeah. So I don't know that I've ever mentioned on the podcast before, because why would I? But I'm the youngest of 15. Okay.
Yeah, there's that.
I have 10 sisters and 4 brothers, and a bunch of them do not get along.
Yes.
And do not interface well with each other over long periods of time, right? If you put them in a room together, eventually things bubble over. There's issues. So I am used to kind of toxic interactions between siblings. And even having seen firsthand those things go incredibly awry between my brothers and sisters who don't get along very well, I have not seen something that looks like this.
Yeah.
It is really hard to watch. And we only talk about it because it's just in the sphere of figure skating right now. For a team that it was such a big deal this summer when it was announced that they were going to be coming back into competition, and the way the ISU and the US Fed just seemed to slide them to the front of the line, where like, here we have Olympic bronze medalists. They've been gone for 7 years, and suddenly they're going to be in all the promos, but they're not really communicating with the other teams. They're not getting photographed with the other competitors.
And generally, we just haven't seen them.
They didn't go to Champs Camp.
No.
They didn't perform at the Summer Sizzler.
They've been nowhere on the Challenger Series, which is not out of line for a lot of the elite, like the top competitors.
But they haven't been around for 7 years.
Right.
And so they don't have international minimums. They don't have a body of work from, when we see like Keegan Messing is back in competition and he's showing up like at the Texas Trophy or Texas Cup or whatever it is at very small competition, so he can start getting international minimums again.
And just getting mileage on programs.
And the Shib Sibs have done nothing yet. And then you're seeing them from whenever this thing was recorded and the programs are clearly not working, but also Alex is just screaming at Maya. It just raises a lot of question marks around, one, even if these things happen behind closed doors all the time, and you really hope that they don't, you don't know if this would have any impact on how like judges or anybody would look at them, because what they do on the ice is very different from what happens in training,
of
right?
Course.
But it does have a big impact on the support they're going to get from the fan base if now a good chunk of hardcore fans, casuals are not even going to know this happened.
Casuals will never ever know that this occurred.
Right.
And that's fine.
Much like in the same way that, we'll see, bubble up in comment threads where people will be like, if you mention Fournier Boudre and Cicerone and you talk about how if you just nod towards the controversy of their team up, you will eventually see somebody say, what controversy, right?
Like, what are you talking about?
Right.
Yeah.
If you're deep in figure skating, these things feel obvious. But if you are a casual fan, particularly one that usually just tunes in, maybe just for the Grand Prix or just for nationals or just for the Olympics,
which is going to be many, many people this year.
A huge chunk of the fan base is on that very casual end, and they won't even know about this stuff. But if you're hanging out
if you're listening to this podcast,
if you're hanging out on Reddit, if you're in any of the social medias where this stuff touches on, eventually you're going to hear about it, and you can't help but have it impact your feelings, your enthusiasm, or any positive sense you would have for this team when you see something like that.
I think that my takeaway one is very similar in the sense of I just keep seeing Maya standing there. Yeah. And the fact that it felt very significant in that, as someone who don't want to go too deep, but like I've been yelled at before many, many times. And when it's happened a lot, and to be very clear, not by my husband,
thank you for clarifying that.
100% not
wasn't
Adrian.
Me.
No, much more closer to the dad side of things. But in any case, whenever you feel that level of defeat,
yeah,
and this is a regular occurrence, that's usually when you see body posture like this.
Yeah.
So my guess is this is not by any stretch the first time this has occurred.
Yeah.
She looks very used to this.
Everything about that situation feels like repetitive behavior.
And that is pure conjecture, because I do not want to accuse Alex of anything. I don't know him. I don't know anything about them, but just based on what I saw.
Yeah.
It looked like it was not unexpected.
And there were previous allegations from a ex-girlfriend of Alex that came out a few years back that insinuated similar types of behavior.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of drama we don't like to get into.
I hate drama.
We were pretty critical of this Shibutani Siblings coming back when that announcement came out, and got people who immediately were like, that is so toxic. Why do you hate the Shib Sibs? And we don't hate the Shib Sibs.
I do not hate
them. We
them.
were fans of them when they were competing before.
Yes.
And we have followed them on social in all the years since and been excited for all the things that they have done and accomplished.
Well, and that's the thing that actually hurts the most watching this. It's that I was not a fan of them coming back, but it didn't mean I was not a fan of them.
Right.
At all. I've always liked this team. I've always thought that they brought something very interesting to the ice. However, watching this goes so against the entire kind of brand that they have put out there of Alex and Maya, super positivity. They've always had this very motivational, aspirational vibe.
Mm-hmm.
And then you watch this and it just deflates you. And I think that that's what made me sad watching this.
They have traded on the closeness of their relationship as siblings that are so kind of locked in together as far as their careers beyond skating. And yeah, that aspirational aspect doesn't feel as good whenever you see a circumstance like that where it doesn't feel truthful.
Yeah.
And more than anything, it's upsetting and it's really sad.
That's really what it is. I'm just hoping that whatever consequence comes out of this, it is that Alex treats her better.
Yeah. And it makes you wonder if we'll even see them in competition.
I don't think that that's going to stop this.
I mean, personally. I imagine that we will still see them show up at because they have a Grand Prix allotment at Skate America?
I know that they are at NHK. I can't remember the
How? They have no international minimums.
Well, I mean, they were Olympic
7 years ago.
But it's all there's rules.
This is the stuff that makes me kind of nuts about skating too, is how often you get people who don't skate for like an entire season and then just walk into nationals competitions. I mean, I've said this before, even like with a skater like I adore, like Jason Brown, who just like didn't compete through an entire season and then just walked into US nationals and into worlds. And he did really well because he's Jason Brown and he's amazing. And he would be like, I don't know why people just don't believe me at this point. And I'm like, it's not that I don't believe in you. It's that I don't feel like this sport should allow some people to just walk on based on a previous year's body of work. To me, that just seems like such a strange aspect of this sport when you compare it to a lot of other ones.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair.
In a situation like this, where you have teams that have been actively competing for the last 3 or 4 years, working their way up to this, and then somebody else who hasn't been around for a really long time just sort of cutting the line back up. That's a really weird thing to me. I feel like you have to prove yourself before you just walk into the Grand Prix.
Yeah, and they're debuting at NHK.
Yeah, and that's so weird to me. So yeah, I expect it to still happen, but very clearly they're struggling to get those programs together if it's bubbling up that hard. And maybe that's always been part of their process. I'm not going to say that's a good thing because it certainly doesn't feel like one, but maybe this is based on what we're seeing there. Maybe they're always in this kind of situation, but they very clearly don't look like they're in sync yet. We might see them come out and be extraordinary, but it's going to be really, really hard to be excited and bullish for those performances after seeing what we did in that clip.
Which I don't recommend. It's more just having the knowledge that occurred, but I felt bad even watching it. It feels
awful.
It's terrible.
And it's one of those things that like I would not have sat through if we didn't do this show.
No, me neither.
I probably would have seen a minute and a half of it
and then walked and then turned it off.
Pieced out and then maybe read a Reddit thread, just to be like, okay, to kind of know what's going on. But we always say like, we're not the people who get super invested in drama, right? Like,
no, I hate talking about this genuinely.
We pay attention to the stuff that's going on. We want to know what's happening, but the off-ice life that people live is generally not something that we want to know that much of out of what they put out, out of their like social media accounts, because it's fun to watch. Something like this does feel invasive because it feels like they had private ice and that camera probably shouldn't have been on, and somebody caught it, and what we all got to see was something that looks toxic and problematic and really deeply unfortunate. And it can't help but color how we view this team going forward. It's been sort of a surprise that we have not seen any statements from them about this in the aftermath. They probably
want it to just go away.
I imagine that they're going to be like, we don't say a word about it and just hope that it never bubbles up further. I can't imagine commentators on any of the feeds saying a word about it. The only person who ever speaks to controversy is Terry Gannon in the NBC feeds. He will.
Ashley Wagner. Give her some cred.
Right. Yeah. But we don't see Ashley as often in those. Terry's the guy in the mainstream NBC feeds who's the most likely to just bring up, there was a bit of controversy around this team.
Yes.
And then
Johnny and Terry brushed it away like, no, that never happened.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Maybe wouldn't be what Johnny and Terry would have done in the past, but I think they've been instructed to be kinder over the last couple of years. So yeah.
Let Terry be the bad guy because that's actually kind of probably the intention.
He's a commentator, not a former skater, not part of that community in that way. He can just be a broadcaster.
Precisely.
That distance is helpful for him in that space.
And I'm sure it helps Johnny and Tara quite a bit.
Yeah. All of that aside.
I want to move on.
Yeah. The thing we have to finish up with is Gold in Our Hearts.
Thank goodness. Let's elevate this mood.
I will be honest though. I don't know how to answer this.
I do. I'm just going to go with my heart and say Jason Brown. And it feels so obvious and kind of redundant. But based on what I saw, man, I love seeing Jason Brown skate beautifully, and I'm going to miss it when he is not there. So giving that to him now because he is such an ambassador for this sport. I know we've said it ad nauseum, as has everyone, but it's so wonderful to watch him go to different countries, being a representative of the US and doing it so gracefully and getting the warm, lovely response that he gets everywhere. The appreciation that I have for him, that everybody has for him, is so genuine and it's so deserved. So I give gold in my heart to Jason Brown, probably forever, but for today specifically.
I think that of everything that I saw this past week, my favorite thing was probably the free skate from Anastasia Gabanova. But she did win, so I don't necessarily have to give her a gold in my heart. I know I've done that in the past. And also, again, props to Metlakina and Bralava, who were terrific in the pairs competition. But I don't know that I had any performance out of this week that I'm holding on to in that way.
Was it just hae-in Lee's shrug and laugh and point on the ice where she made the mistake?
That might be my favorite moment for sure. Like as far as like, it is a fairly adorable moment. But yeah, I'll tag in on Jason just because I think of any of the other non-winning performances, his is probably the best overall, but nothing just grabbed me in that same way. Even though there are a ton of skaters who were here that often have, I mean, like I say, like a Holly Harris and Jason Chan, who I have given gold in my heart to before, and just nothing grabs me in that big way this time around. So I will give it to Jason with the asterisk that even as much as I liked his skates, nothing thrilled me in a big way out of any of these.
That's fair.
I'm more appreciative of the Georgian crowd because I think that their audience there really did a lovely job of supporting all the different skaters and being very hyped for their hometown people. And
the Federation did a really nice job with the overall competition from what I saw from the skaters.
Yeah, everybody seemed to think that it went pretty well there. And more than anything, I'm just really excited to see the Grand Prix.
Oh my
get
gosh.
started.
I'm so excited that the Grand Prix is starting.
So that's what we have to look forward to.
Yeah. Next week, we know exactly what we're talking about, the Grand Prix de France.
Yeah. So let us know what you thought of the scoring, the placements, and what you most excited about from this week and any of the other news. What are your reactions to those news? And
those newses.
Yeah, those newses. The newses. And join us next week after the Grand Prix de France wraps up. And for Choreography, I'm Adrian Buskey.
And I'm Wendy Buskey.
We will talk to you next time.
Bye.